Francisco Sanches, That Nothing is Known, and Descartes. In the landscape of early modern philosophy, Francisco Sanches stands out as a critical voice challenging the established views on knowledge. His most famous work, That Nothing is Known, Quod Nihil Sitter, opens with the evocative assertion attributed to Aristotle: mankind has an inborn desire to know. This sets the stage for a profound critique of the Aristotelian framework, questioning not just the methodologies of acquiring knowledge, but the very possibility of certain knowledge itself. Sanches, who considered himself a follower of the skeptical tradition of Carneades, embarks on a rigorous examination of the foundations of knowledge. He doesn't merely question the surface-level aspects of Aristotelianism. He delves deep, critiquing the entire epistemological structure that had dominated scholastic thought. As Elaine Limbrick notes, Sanches' treatise is a critique of classical scientific methods and the failure of ancient philosophers to uncover a theory of knowledge that could lead to absolute truth. This critique is not just academic but existential, raising questions about whether humanity's innate desire to know can ever lead to total comprehension. In That Nothing is Known, Sanches advocates for a pursuit of knowledge grounded in observation and rational inquiry rather than reliance on authoritative claims. He asserts, "I shall follow nature alone," signaling a departure from the rhetorical and often dogmatic traditions of his predecessors. This radical skepticism challenges the reader to reconsider traditional epistemology and engage with the world directly, free from preconceived notions. One of the most striking aspects of Sanches' skepticism is his assertion that knowledge is perfect understanding of a thing. However, he quickly adds that such understanding is elusive, as our senses deceive us and mere appearances mask the true essence of reality. Sanches raises fundamental questions about the reliability of sensory information and the very nature of existence, echoing themes that would later be central to Descartes' own philosophical project. Sanches' critique extends to metaphysical abstractions like Democritus's atoms, Plato's ideas, and Aristotle's universals, which he dismisses as inventions without tangible grounding. His alignment with nominalist philosophy suggests that general terms do not correspond to inherent realities, raising profound questions about the limits of language and cognition. Yet, Sanches does not merely critique. He also expresses a deep existential anguish over the uncertainty of knowledge. He famously declares, "How unhappy our situation is. We are blind in the midst of light," capturing the frustration and despair of intellectual inquiry in the face of epistemological uncertainty. This existential tone adds a layer of depth to his work, reflecting the modern dilemma of the limits of knowledge and the search for understanding. Despite this anguish, Sanches insists on the necessity of continuous inquiry. He closes his treatise with the exhortation to work, urging both himself and his readers to engage actively with the world. For Sanches, the search for absolute knowledge may be fraught with uncertainty, but it is through this struggle and the active questioning that we navigate our existence in a complex and often incomprehensible universe. That Nothing is Known remains a pivotal text in the history of Western philosophy, challenging traditional epistemology and marking a critical juncture in the evolution of skeptical thought. In the history of skepticism, few comparisons are as intriguing as that between Francisco Sanches and René Descartes. Both philosophers grappled with foundational questions about knowledge and existence, yet their methodologies and conclusions diverged in significant ways. By examining their shared skepticism, distinct approaches, and respective impacts on the philosophical landscape, we can better understand the dialogue between these two intellectual giants. At the heart of both Sanches and Descartes' philosophical inquiries lies a profound engagement with doubt. Each philosopher initiated his quest for knowledge under a cloud of radical skepticism, questioning the reliability of external authorities and the validity of received wisdom. This skepticism serves as the cornerstone of their works. In his 1581 treatise Quod Nihil Sitter, That Nothing is Known, Sanches articulates a method of inquiry that seeks to dismantle established beliefs through rigorous self-reflection. Descartes, in his landmark 1637 work Discourse on the Method, similarly emphasizes doubt, aiming to strip away uncertainties to uncover indubitable truths, famously summarized in the assertion cogito, ergo sum, I think, therefore I am. The parallels between their approaches are striking. Scholars like Etienne Gilson have recognized Sanches as a precursor to Descartes, suggesting that Sanches' skepticism might have directly informed Descartes' foundational thoughts. Both philosophers adopt a style that blends personal narrative with philosophical discourse, engaging readers more intimately in their intellectual journeys. However, while the initial inquiries of Sanches and Descartes display remarkable similarities, their philosophical trajectories ultimately diverge. Sanches accepts empirical knowledge and maintains a skeptical stance regarding the certainty of external realities. He critiques the Aristotelian approach to demonstrative truths, advocating for a more observational and experience-based understanding of the world. In contrast, Descartes seeks absolute certainty through rational deduction, often dismissing the reliability of the senses in favor of clear and distinct ideas derived from reason. A key comparison can be drawn between their reflections on knowledge acquisition. Sanches emphasizes the fragmentation of knowledge and the importance of breaking concepts down to their fundamental components. He asserts, I broke everything down into its ultimate first principles, a methodology that aligns with Descartes' insistence on starting with the simplest truths as a pathway to more complex ideas. However, while Sanches acknowledges the imperfections of human perception and the limitations of empirical knowledge, Descartes actively seeks to derive certainty from reasoned thought, moving beyond the empirical toward a rationalist framework. Their historical contexts further illuminate their distinct philosophical positions. Sanches operated within the late 16th century milieu, where scholastic methods prevailed and where doubts about established truths often led to ethical and intellectual anxieties. Descartes, on the other hand, emerged during a period of burgeoning scientific inquiry, influenced by the works of contemporaries like Galileo. Descartes famously asserted that physical phenomena could be described through mathematical principles, a notion that was alien to Sanches, who attributed mathematical truths more to empirical observation than to abstract reasoning. Despite the congruence in their doubts, the implications of their skepticism take on different forms. Sanches' skepticism might seem to lean toward a nihilistic interpretation, where fundamental truths remain perpetually elusive. Descartes' method, however, ultimately strives for affirmation and foundation, seeking to establish a new basis for certainty in knowledge. This difference highlights a critical shift in the philosophical landscape. Sanches articulates a vision of knowledge grounded in sensory experience, while Descartes presents a revolution in epistemology that privileges internal cognition. Interestingly, while scholars often associate Sanches' radical skepticism with a Pyrrhonian stance, one that might even lead to atheism, Descartes faced his own scrutiny for perceived radical ideas, despite his efforts to reconcile his philosophy with Christian faith. Although historical accounts suggest that Descartes was aware of Sanches' work, he chose not to engage directly with it in his writings, perhaps reflecting a desire to distance himself from Sanches' interpretation of skepticism.